Mark, thank you very much. As I said, always an annual highlight. And, one thing that's amazing about this community is that so many of us have been involved in the industry for a long time. People love it and tend not to leave it. And it creates this sort of institutional memory for the markets. And that really comes through when you listen to people like Mark. I also wanted to say I've gotten a couple questions about Adam's presentation. He will make that available to everyone, and Mark will as well. I think pretty much all the presentations today. I see people taking pictures, but you don't need to do that because we will definitely send those out. It's a pleasure to call up Nico Schües and Dr. Stefan Rindfleisch. Can we cue their walk-on music? Nico is the CEO of Laeisz Shipping from Hamburg. Stefan also comes from Hamburg. Some people used to call this conference Hamburg on the Hudson because we always have a great crew coming over from Germany. So welcome, guys.
Merci. Thank you.
I want everybody to see you.
Thanks very much for fading out the music. That would have been a challenge otherwise. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a pleasure to be here. I'd like to introduce you to Nikolaus Schües, who is the owner and CEO of Reederei Laeisz and a 200-year-old family-owned business in Hamburg. He's going to tell us more what the company is doing. But first of all, Nico, must admit, I'm very happy that you're here on stage.
Why is that?
Well, in your capacity as former president of BIMCO, you were and you are, I know, a fully convinced, strong advocate of the net zero framework of the BIMCO initiative, IMO initiative. And I thought you may have problems in immigrating into the US, who are more on the other side of this. So it's good that they let you in, and now actually the floor is yours to say whatever you wanted to say at this side of the Atlantic. No, honestly, we are looking back to a kind of very busy and remarkable days when this decision was taken last minute. I would say in summer, everybody expected this decision, net zero framework, to go through. From your perspective, how did you experience it? What is your assessment, and what's the way forward on this?
Yes. Thank you, Stefan, for that. Before I start with that, let me say that I'm very happy to be back in New York. I lived here some shocking 35 years ago, I calculated, as a young shipbroker with Pirot. And today my daughter is studying here, so it's very good to be here, and thank you very much for the invitation. Yesterday was a record immigration time for me, actually. It took less than 15 minutes leaving the plane until I reached the taxi. I never experienced that before, and they were extremely friendly. I came via Newark, so that was a great experience. But I guess you were referring to what the New York Times called bullying the other side to avoid the net zero framework. Yes, I must admit that I regret that very much. I think it would have done a great job for decarbonizing shipping. I'm fully aware, and Laeisz is right there. I'm fully aware of the arguments. They are all exchanged about ability, about availability of fuels, renewable fuels, about the distribution, about the financeability, etc. These arguments have been exchanged sufficiently. What I find important is to note that the decarbonization of shipping would have led to scale, assuming that it would have been possible, which is my opinion. I respect the opinion of others to say it would not have been possible, but our opinion is that it would have been possible. It would have brought scale to the ports. That would have allowed land-based organizations to have access to renewable energy carriers, such as ammonia or methanol, which would have helped the decarbonization of shore-based industries. And when the fossil lobby realized that, they did a great effort to avoid this regulation to come into force. So the discussion was taken out of the IMO context. It took place within the IMO, but it was taken out of the shipping context of the IMO, and it was what New York Times referred to as bullying net zero framework out of the realization. And I find that a pity for the future generations that have to live on the planet. But there's no sense in saying this is the end of the world, because certainly it is not. We are now working on trying to make the net zero framework survive in one form or the other. The worst would be if it becomes a kind of zombie regulation by saying that it is not receiving a tacit acknowledgement, but an explicit acknowledgement, which means, I don't want to make it too complicated, that it takes a decade or two until it is adopted. So let's keep fingers crossed for those who are on my side, but I fully respect the other side of the opinion as well.
If you would guess today, estimate today, do you think within 1 year we are going to have a better framework and it will come into force with the goal to still have a net zero by 2050?
The goal is announced. The goal is clear. The way towards there will either be with a global regulation or with a mix of regional regulations. And I find the regional regulations probably more complicated for ship owners than a global one. Whether IMO will be able to achieve consensus within a year, you should ask Arsenio Dominguez. He's more in a position to judge that.
Would you say that is in the hand of the shipping stakeholders, or is that in the hand of more political and maybe other lobbies?
It has been taken out of the hands of the shipping industry, and the IMO has to make sure, also for its own survival, to take it back into their own control.
Yeah. However, you need votes in the end, and these votes are coming from representatives from countries, and these countries are we know this. In the end, it's unfortunately still politics. Leaving that, coming to the next current topic, the Houthi rebels have announced that with the peace process in Gaza for the time being sustaining and the weapons being silent, they are no longer going to attack ships, which means the Red Sea passage through the canal is supposed to be open to reopen. From a ship owner's point of view, how do you as a company look at it? What does it mean for you? And what do you think will the effects be?
Well, the preparedness to go through the Suez Canal is increasing very, very slowly. Most companies take a wait-and-see attitude. What is different is that the Houthis have not written to any shipping organization, neither to EXA nor to any national ship owners association. What they've done in the past, all they've done is sent a letter to Al-Qassam brigades, which is part of the Hamas kind of surroundings, and said that as long as the peace process is on its way and not being disturbed, they will cease attacking. Now, that is not a very secure stand for many ship owners to start trading through the canal. Also, there may be a little bit like a swarm intelligence. It's a prisoner's dilemma situation to say, if nobody starts, let's keep calm. This is referring to container lines. It's extremely expensive to rearrange the network if you potentially face the situation that this recommences and you have to rearrange again. So there is it takes time. A lot of people say that the market will fall to the ground once that is reopened. BIMCO estimates that it is about 10% of ton mileage requirement that will be taken out of the market. But there are other reasons why container shipping still continues to be a bit stable, more stable than people have expected. We see that at the moment very much. And that is partly due to the fact that efficiency gains in the recent years have absorbed kind of like containerization growth. If you look at televisions, you had 4 televisions on a pallet. Today you have 50 televisions on a pallet. And these efficiency gains are over. So I'm not as pessimistic for the container market as most people are. Of course it will be hit, but it's also not going to be the end of the world.
Okay. Turning over to the next topic, again, current topic. We know USTR and Chinese port fees, penalties, whatever you would call them, are for the time being off the table, suspended for 1 year. Is this good or bad for shipping?
Yes, I will give you a brief answer because then I want to come to Mark Friedman's comments because I have a couple of comments to that. Free trade, of course, is the best, is what shipping wants. Shipping always wants globalization, free trade, exchange, etc., etc. Now, sometimes inefficiencies help markets. Sometimes distortions of free trade are good. If you look at the soya transport from Brazil to China is much better than the soya transport from the Gulf, from the US Gulf, simply from a ton mileage point of view. So there are situations where distortion is positive. Now we have a break, so to say, for 1 year, if it takes a year. The arguments of the administration to fight for restoring shipbuilding capacity in the United States, to regain significance in the maritime industry for the United States, they are still valid. And for sure, this will not go away without another capital chapter of this. The economic theory has it that you are well advised to accept competitive advantages of certain countries. And I think fighting gravity is very tough, and Chinese are building cheaper ships. Although I understand that the unions are putting pressure on the administration to fight to build ships here. So it's a dilemma, and we have to see how that works out.
Would you order new buildings in China nowadays?
Yes. Yes. In fact, we do. We have 4 car carriers coming out of China, and the cost calculation simply shows that it is at the moment better to do that than ordering Korea, Japan. We also have 11 new buildings coming out of Japan, but ordering in the United States without the benefits of Jones Act is no owner could possibly consider that.
No. Moving to the topic you were already referring to, and giving you the opportunity to comment on what Mark Friedman said. You are a ship owner who invested in shipping equities, Graham car carriers, Diana Shipping, and Bell ships. Maybe just for the purpose of laying the ground for this little talk, what did you do there?
Well, we started with these 3 companies you're referring to, Graham car carriers, which we jointly took public with Peter Graham, the former owner of the company, in 2022, and we became thereby the largest owner in Graham car carriers with 28%. And that company developed very well and was then privatized by MSC 2 years later because they saw even more value than the stock market, and right so. The second one you're referring to is the privatization. That was mentioned by Mark Friedman just now on the screen as well, the privatization of Bell ships. We did this spring with us having just above 25% and Entrust 74+%. They bring the financial knowledge and the expertise, and we try to bring some not so much commercial knowledge, because they have that within the company very well, but potentially with regards to ship management and
and Diana?
Bless you.
But Diana was?
Well, Diana is a bit of a difficult thing for me to comment, because that is, we own about 7%, and there is different ways you can register as an investor in the United States. I had to learn that as well, and I'm now registered as a strategic investor, and that does not allow me to speak so much in public about it.
Fair enough, but you are invested there.
Yes.
Right, okay, good. So
Now,
what was the reason for that? Were you bored as a ship owner? And isn't it much more exciting to operate a fleet of ships rather than looking at the screen every morning and seeing whether you made or you lost money? Or in other words, where can you make more money, Nico?
I don't look at the screen every morning. These are strategic things. I want to go a little bit more basic than Mark Friedman did. If you go, that's at least my view, if you go to the stock exchange, there basically is only one reason. In the vast majority, you can have some other reasons. But in the vast majority of the cases, you want to raise equity to pay for growth or to sell part of your company. To stay at the stock market, in theory, only has, I found it quite funny when Mark mentioned that there is legacy or self-esteem or something like that, potentially a reason for being at the stock exchange. I don't find that a very important argument, actually. What the only real argument to be at the stock exchange is to pay with the scale and the efficiency, achieving a higher stock value than the net asset value, paying for additional assets or growth with this efficiency. Now, this comes with a price. This benefit of raising the capital and the benefit of having the ability to grow with paying shares comes at a price. First of all, cost, that was correctly mentioned. And secondly, and more importantly, you are for sale. You have a price tag. And that is what the market is valuing at. And if there's somebody coming, this is what you get. Now, you can do things to increase your share value by being very transparent, by being very concentrated, by being a decent dividend policy, by having matters which allow investors to take a position. For example, not have long-term time charters, but facing the bulk markets, to take an example just out of my head. And if you don't do that, you are punished by the stock market. Now, once you try to cover these costs of being transparent, concentrated, being for sale, having a value, if you contradict that by saying, I introduce poison pills, like nobody can achieve more than 14% of my shares without being diluted. If you do things like that, your share price is punished. And I don't agree that these 30-40% of net asset value of bulk carriers is just investors' interest. I don't agree that it is part of the market perception, because then the net asset values would be as low as the stock market. This is, as opposed to Oslo, a result of traditional poison pills and non-compliance, which I think in the end will not survive. This is why we look at these companies very interested. And Mark was right. I would not say go big or go home. I would say be comfortable at the stock market and use it, or don't do it. So the idea to be there for prestigious reasons, I find a very weak argument.
You mentioned Oslo. Do you like that market more?
Well, Oslo is the competitive advantage of Oslo, I would think, is that the stock market there is extremely transparent. It's plain vanilla. It's one stock, one vote. It's an announced dividend policy. It's if you go into Höegh car carriers, all you buy is tonnage provision and car carrier operations. If you go into Bell ships, this is a plain vanilla, only Ultramaxes, only Japanese built. It's a product you offer to the market, and investors can take a position and say, yes, this is something I see, and this is something I want to invest in. And that is, I think, a great advantage. And I think with that attitude, the stock market will remain very, very strong if you're prepared to accept that somebody comes around and says, I pay you $1 more per share, and now I delist.
You have appetite to invest more, and if so, what are you looking at? Either names or just theoretically, what would be something where you say segments?
Yeah, if I would have listened to the first presentation, I was a bit shocked to see that the worst thing you can buy now is bulkers, because I did that quite a bit. But I should have been here last year and listened more carefully. To be honest, I don't have a view on that. No. I don't have a view I could share here.
You should be here every year, actually, Nico, not only last year. But that's
more listening than being here.
Yeah. So when you operate, coming to the first presentation, the heat maps, when you decide, for instance, to buy bulk carriers, you're looking at this kind of data, or do you take a very macro helicopter view into the future? You look back in historic, where are you on the values? What is driving that decision?
It's both. It's, of course, a permanent view at the market. We always wanted to go back into bulk. We left the segment in 2016. Vessels are too expensive, so we looked at the stock market, thought that was a good idea. It's a process that develops over months, and then it's really more being ready when the opportunity is there. It's not that you decide, now we buy. You decide if something comes around in this or that segment, then we are prepared to jump.
Okay, and that is typical family-owned company style decision, which can be taken in minutes if you want so, theoretically.
Yeah. Of course, but it's not that we have an analytical brain or that we concentrate on it. It's a permanent watching the market and seeing what is evolving, talking about it and trying to listen to marine money venues and stuff like that to learn what the market is doing.
Good. So Laeisz was founded in 1824. We just celebrated the company's 200 years anniversary last year.
Yes.
And at present, your family is in control of it. You are second generation now. But looking at the color of your hair and knowing how old you are, because we are comrades since quite some time, and our sons even went to school together and things like that.
Yes.
I know you have a very smart son. I know your daughter is also interested in the shipping space. So how is the succession taking place? How are you planning for that already?
Well, yeah, but it's the company is very old. The company was led by three families: my family, the Laeisz family, and a third family. It never went down. It never had a restructuring. It never had. It was sometimes large and sometimes small, and now we are happy with the size that we have. But we don't consider ourselves in any way in a dynastic frame of mind or something. I think a shipping company should be led by one person. That really is my conviction, and that goes up to the very, very large ones. If you look at MSC, if you look at Maersk until a couple of years ago, if you look at CMA, if you look at the big bulker operators, with the exception of the Japanese big three, most shipping companies in the world, all the Greeks, are usually led by one person. And I think a shipping company, because our assets don't last too long, they last reasonably long, but the cycles are short. Every ship owner has to earn his own legacy. Every generation has to make sure that the company survives. It's very easy to run a shipping company down to 0 vessels within a period of 15 years. So I don't think dynastically. I think it's a responsibility. And if our children want to do it and can do it, I'm extremely happy about it, but I'm not thinking about that yet.
And what was, you took over from your father in the early 2000s, right? You started in shipping much earlier, but I think you became kind of responsible.
2007.
2007, which is
the peak of the market. He said, now you take over the keys. And then my sister said, well done, Nico, what have you done? They did that in 2015. No, but joking aside, about that period.
Yes, and so looking back to these about almost 20 years, rough times, really difficult times for a lot of ship owners, completely change of business model for shipping companies in Germany. Those who are still around are stronger than before and have learned their lesson. What's your main lesson learned in these 17 years as being on top of this organization?
The time is up.
I know. No.
So no, just to say, I think the proportion of luck in taking the right decisions, to have the right capital when you need it, to have the right contact with the banks. I have no feeling of I did it better because some of the German companies went down during the crisis. I have not the slightest mean of they've done many things differently, except maybe not growing too fast and having the opportunity to speak with the banks. We never got any concessions from the banks, but we always were lucky enough to have a postponement or to find a debt-free ship, and that market peaked. We had a mixed fleet, etc. So luck, the proportion of luck in success, I believe, is underestimated by many successful people.
We hope that you, your company, and your family are going to be lucky in the future, and wishing you all the best. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Nico for being here on stage. Thank you. Sehr gut. Merci.
Thank you.
Get a picture, guys? You handsome gentlemen. With you? Hell yeah.
Come on. Let's go. Yeah.
Nico.
Thank you.
Great job, Nico.
Thank you.
Have you back.
Thank you.